Hello, everybody. It is Two Queers in a Truck. And I figured this would be a great song for Holy Week. Born this way by the Lady Gaga. And
Lady Gaga?
Lady Gaga. And
Lady Gaga.
Zach Galifianakis from North Carolina.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And that Lady Gaga. And,
Lady Gaga.
Speaking of big old queens. But this is Two Queers in a Truck, and this is Jenny Gunn with my show partner, Christian. How are you doing, Christian?
Good, Boo. How are you?
Oh, I'm just firing away. It is April 13th.
Happy
our second
Wednesday.
show of the month. Yeah, I know. Like, we do celebrate Easter, really, the spring festivities. Great for you. I don't. I do love the Reese's chocolate eggs because every holiday they start with the Halloween ones, so they're the little pumpkins and stuff like that. Then they switch to Christmas and they start doing the Christmas ones, and then Valentine's, and then this is the end of the what I call the official holiday season when you wrap up with the chocolate peanut butter eggs. And,
so what's your favorite? You like the chocolate eggs, or you like the hollow chocolate bunnies?
Oh. Is that a question?
I mean, I like the hollow chocolate bunnies. Butter. Oh, really? No. Oh, see, I've never.
We've established you're a weirdo, and now that's sacrilege. I'm ashamed of you now. That's blasphemy.
I know.
In the chocolate world. So chocolate and peanut butter is where it's at because you get a little bit of peanutty flavor, a little bit.
Isn't that just Reese's Pieces?
No, Reese's Pieces are different.
That's peanut butter and chocolate, right?
Peanut butter and chocolate. But peanut butter, you're thinking of peanut butter cups, boo-boo.
Yeah.
Yeah, not Reese's Pieces. Little Reese's Pieces was the answer to the M&Ms. That was they compete against it because the Reese's Pieces are little tiny little hard candies.
No, the Reese's cups. Yeah, the Reese's cups. Isn't that peanut butter?
Reese's cups aren't called Reese's Pieces, fool.
Well, I don't know. I'll eat sweet tarts.
I'll take you to the Target and I'll give you your proper chocolate education.
I'm sorry. All right.
And it's a non-sexual way, y'all. So yeah.
Did you say the name of the show already?
We already introduced it a couple times.
Okay, I'm sorry. But,
it's okay. Yeah. I'll just attribute it to your misogyny. It's no big deal.
That's right.
But anyway, this is Two Queers and a Truck, and we're going to roll with the first topic.
Yeah.
The first one is the Show Me state is now the Show Me hate state. They have just introduced a bill in their House of Representatives there in Missouri called HB 2649. It literally is so problematic. Many writers are referring to it a Nazi bill. It strips doctors of licenses. Bans all gender care for trans people. It ends health coverage for anything trans related whatsoever, and it would pull away all transgender health care from people currently on some sort of therapy, whether it's talk therapy, whether it is hormones, whatever it is. It is one of the most harshest bills introduced yet, and a rash of just absolutely, I don't even know what you would call it anymore. That is just, for some reason, again, Republicans have got this regressive, authoritarian, Putin-like obsession with trans people in the last few years, but it just seems like they're one-upping it. Like the next bill is just worse than the one before. And we're just seeing whether it's attacking people with ovaries, attacking people of color, like they just have a Gatling gun of just insanity. Like they've just dropped off the deep end and ate paint chips for a while or something. I don't know that. I guess when their grand poopah got fired, the whole cult just blew apart. But it's being hailed as one of the worst ones yet, and I've read it, and it's brutal.
Hey, Jen, I was going to say something on our other show that we just had, but I completely forgot about the like Republican Latinos or Hispanics in the border, some of the border counties in Texas. There's all this big news about how there's a lot of Latinas running that are for the GOP, the Republicans. They're running for the Republican nomination. And, this is big thing about how the Republicans are gaining steam. And so they've gone from like 10 Republicans to 20 Republicans. So yeah, it's 100% increase, but in comparison to the population, it's still minute, but it is still an increase. But what I've heard from the candidates that are there, they're usually women. They're usually Gen X women. And what I've heard from them is there's like 3 of them, I think, are running. And they said they're running for Congress. And what they've said is, our families are from Mexico, and we're very conservative. And we don't believe, we want they're pro-life. And then they talk about critical race theory shouldn't be taught in school. It's kind of the same talking points or whatever. They are sounding exactly like someone who wants to remain in Mexico. And I do think this is going to backfire, because their talking points and their basically what they're saying is, our family came from Mexico, and many of them are first and second generation Americans. Our family came from Mexico, and we don't like the way this country is going. Well, then go back to Mexico. That is actually, I know that sounds harsh, but the Tejanos in South Texas need to start somehow combating that and saying, the reason you left Mexico was because you didn't like that. And now you're telling us you want that repeated here. You want the conservative caste systems kind of thing.
Well, and here's the thing. First of all, all this crap about, reproductive rights and LGBT and all that.
Yeah.
First of all, that's not a conservative ideal. That is a very liberal, regressive, aggressive thing. A legit conservative wants things to change slower.
Yep.
But they're not against change. A legit conservative. So all these idiots, whether it's Latinx people in South Texas or people in Chicago or North Carolina or whatever, these extremists, let's call them what they really are. These are extremists. These are people that prop up dictators like Putin, using chemical weapons and wanting to use nuclear weapons on Ukrainians. We're talking about executing civilians. This is how this crap starts. So let's not gloss it. These people aren't conservatives. They're authoritarian regressives. They're on a psychopathic march to destroy democracy in every country they can. And these people are just dumb enough in South Texas to fall for it because they just don't know better. They hear the word abortion.
Exactly.
They crap their Wheaties and they honestly don't even know what they're talking about. They just sound as idiotic as Marjorie Three Names or
they do
the rapist Gates or whomever, as they're just parroting what they hear some extremists say. But these people are extremists. When you are arresting some woman that had a spontaneous miscarriage, good Lord, that's not. There is nothing conservative about that. My grandfather fought against people like that in Germany and in Europe. My dad fought against communist extremists and insurgents in Southeast Asia in the 1960s. These are the people that Americans spilt their own blood and the blood of others to protect democracy. And tell you something, arresting people that have miscarriages has nothing to do with freedom, democracy, or being pro-life whatsoever.
Exactly.
And the moment I see these 3 people rolling up their sleeves and helping kids from birth to age 18 will be what day when hell freezes over, because they typically also say, well, just they're on their own. It's rugged individualism once you're born. So they can kiss my ass. The next subject is just the sacks, ma'am. Just the sacks. Goldman Sachs.
The sacks.
The sacks. Like Goldman Sachs.
Was
convicted of a $3 billion bribery scandal, or actually, the bribery scandal cost them over $3 billion just a few years ago.
Oh my God!
The same company awarded their CEO a $30 million bonus last year, despite all of those penalties. And they're slated to give him another $30 million bonus on top of his salary again this fall. Now, this is a company that has lost their shirt over a bribery scandal. And it just goes to show you, because this is going to come up in the next topic too, how companies are taking their profits instead of investing into employees and facilities and stuff like that. They're just stripping these companies bare with bonuses and bailing out the investors and just buying back stocks with government money.
Yep.
Most of these companies are big old welfare queens too.
Exactly.
And it just goes to show you how big corporations have just lost their minds. They've just absolutely lost their minds. And, to pay a company or reward a CEO for a horribly run company an extra $30 million 2 years in a row is just, that tells you what's wrong with our financial system, our major companies in this deal, and just this mentality of entitlement that they're going to pay ridiculous sums of money. And it's just, I can't even imagine why any company would pay somebody $30 million extra dollars just for shits and giggles when they've been getting massively.
You would not be amazed, but you would be amazed, especially in the financial insurance industry, the amount of money that is paid to certain people, and it is as if though it's amazing. And I can tell you that in those industries, there's not a lot of diversity. There are some people who can get in the door, but most of the people in those industries hire, it's all about relationships. They hire their bros from fraternities, and all the salespeople are formed from fraternity brothers and so forth. And so you wonder, it's difficult unless you're in that group, to get in those jobs, in those businesses. And it's one of those industries that it's almost protecting each other from diversity. And I don't know how that is going to change, because my family has benefited from that. So it is this, I don't know what the term is, but it's anyway,
lack of diversity in that industry is one thing, but pay, a company that is just come out of a $3 billion scandal, a bribery scandal.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then turns around and takes their top person in their company and gives them a $30 million bonus. That just,
that's
a different topic. It's unmitigated greed. And it just reminds me of 100 years ago when they had to, they started doing antitrust laws and all this to pump the robber bears. And it feels like we've come full circle where we don't appreciate working people anymore. We poo-poo unions. And I see a lot of poor people, working class people that even are anti-union. I'm like, literally that's how we built the middle class after the World War II, was affirming and creating these powerful unions that, for the most part, did more good than anything. Established working hours, established so many safety things, and created a safe, stable middle class. And there was a lot of other reasons why we had a stable middle class for so long. But now the middle class is literally disappearing by the day. Literally, they're dropping down into the lower income classes for many reasons, and there's no real pathway to most of them going back up. They could be within a generation where we're going to have lower income classes and the elite wealthy, and that's going to be it in this country.
But you know what, Jenny? But you know what, Jenny? There are some members of our LGBT community that are in very prominent positions in a lot of these organizations and groups, and they've earned that. They've worked their way through the systems, and so forth. And it is. I guess what I'm trying to say is that when you get into that group, you start to think, well, I've earned it. So I've earned it, and you forget part of the reason you're there is because you got lucky.
Okay.
You knew someone.
We're going to take a quick break.
Yes.
And I want to come right back to that.
Excellent.
In fact, it has a tie into the next topic.
Okay.
So we'll do a real quick 15-second break, and we'll be right back.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching us on Two Queers in a Truck. Don't forget, you can watch us anytime at your leisure on our video podcast platforms like Facebook and YouTube. But you can also listen to us, either this show or any of our past shows, on our audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and all of the other ones. So once again, thank you for watching Two Queers in a Truck. I hope you enjoy our show.
And we are back. And before you finish your point,
sure,
I'm gonna tie the next topic, because the next topic exactly dovetails into what you're about to say.
Okay.
So take from the poor and give to the rich is the next topic. Mm-hmm. In 1960, the top 1,000 companies in our country paid 45% of their revenue to workers, to employees. Now, in 2022, only 20% of the revenue goes to employees. So literally almost a 60% drop of revenue sharing to the employees. And what you were talking about, you're alluding to basically a entitlement, typically white entitlement, saying, well, I've paid my dues, I've earned my place in the society. Absolutely. There is earned privilege. I have no argument with somebody busting their hump, doing what they're supposed to do. And some people get bigger rewards, like a Jeff Bezos or our friend Elon Musk. And there's some people that have also busted their hump really hard, still working 2 jobs, still working out, still barely making it, because of this disproportionate level of money going only one it is income and money redistribution. Unfortunately, it's not a bilateral one anymore. You're having money go to the top but stay there, and a mentality is, I've earned this, but I'm not going to share it, and screw you. Unfortunately, our system is set up now where it's almost impossible to be upwardly mobile. And it's literally been a re-pop of our original American caste system, where people cannot go from the lower income classes, for whatever reason, to the middle class, because the middle class is too expensive to break into anymore. They put so many barriers up. And you're seeing this with so many different tools they're using, and it's not an accident.
But you know what, Jenny? What I've seen is there's this belief that the working bees, if you gotta say to that point, the working bees deserve what they get because they aren't smart enough to know that they actually have the majority. And if it's almost like this argument about voting. If you really want to vote, you can get out and vote. And it's easy for someone who can just take time off during the day to say that, rather than someone who can't do it. It's usually someone who has the privilege to say, and they're the ones that always say it. And so my point is that a lot of the majority of Americans aren't the top 10, 20%. but yet the working bees, and I'm a working bee. When I work, I'm a working bee.
Right.
We have the majority if we just vote. If we vote for Medicare for all, if we require, the problem is there are some working bees that think, I don't really want to hurt the person that's making this much money because I'm going to be that person one day. And they don't want to ruin it. So when they get to that, it's like this delusional belief that someday they're going to win the lottery. They're going to be Elon Musk. So they don't want to tax Elon Musk because when they become the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers and make 249, it's never going to happen. And so, we teach our kids in many ways, you can be whatever you want to be, you can do whatever you want to do. And that's true to many extents, but there's also some limits because of whatever this case may be. And I don't know how to break that brainwashing.
But the issue is that mostly comes from the very conservative side of the ledger. Yeah. Most progressives would never believe something like that. Yeah. So there's a certain quadrant of our population, our adult population, that's really, I don't even really know what to call it other than ignorant, is that this con shell game that Republicans have developed, this trickle-down dystopian nightmare economy that's crapped the bed so many times under Republican presidents since 2000. It's not even funny. It's completely dysfunctional logic because no matter what the era is, our system of economic means is completely designed. And human nature in general is there's a few people at the very top that have all the gold. Whether you were talking off camera earlier about different TV shows we watch, and I happen to watch the Viking, different Viking ones that have different names. But back then, you had the ruling elite that had all the gold and silver, and then everybody else was down below. It's not really different 1,000 years later now. And the problem was in 1960, clearly they cut a little bit off more for people across the board that are in the poorer classes when they invested 45% of their revenue into their employees, which literally is an investment. And now that's literally dropped 60% by the same top 1,000 companies. So their costs of doing business are the same. Adjusted for inflation, but they literally said, well, we're just going to invest 60% less into workers. And it's because, and so this is why we're seeing the cataclysmic societal effects of, runaway homelessness, all of this ridiculous deals. But they've also put a huge barrier on unions. They've only put a huge barrier on going to college because of a 6-figure price tag. And so they said, well, you can work for it and you can earn it, and you need to go to college to, to be whatever, to be upwardly modal. And then, but the problem is the more money they would make is offset by the fact that you have a $85,000 to $120,000 bill for a bachelor's degree plus interest. And it's pretty compounded pretty heavily. You're literally making a house payment. And so people are stuck in these, I call it a hamster wheel of dysfunction. And so it's a restrictor plate on upwardly mobile people. But we do have to go to the next subject. And I'm sure that's going to be the last time we talk about it. So the Grand Wizard of Oz, not. Dr. Oz, the TV doctor that first started on Oprah show and then got his own show. And I guess he still has his show. I don't watch him. But
it stopped.
They've come after him pretty hard. And the irony is, so technically, he's running for an office in Pennsylvania. He actually lives in New Jersey. And then the biggest thing that people are saying, and there's a lot of anti-Oz sentiment actually amongst the MAGAs in Pennsylvania. So he's not getting pushed back
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't get pushed back from Democrats anyway. He's not running as a Democrat. He's running as a
Mhm.
Republican. And he got endorsed by the former guy, but the rank and file MAGA voters are not
Are
happy.
mad. Yes.
They don't want him. They say he's not from Pennsylvania. He's a
Mhm.
fake doctor. They just don't like him at all. And he is getting annihilated
Mhm.
by Pennsylvanian MAGAs.
Yeah.
Which their grandpapa, sad.
Mhm.
I love Dr. Oz. He's got a great TV show. He's helped me a lot with my different tanning solutions and stuff like that. But they're saying, no, Queen, we don't want anything to do with this dude. And they're just blowing him up on the polling data, and
Yeah.
looks like he's in trouble. There's a good chance he's definitely not going to win the general. I mean, unless something radically changes.
Yeah, when Trump announced his endorsement on Saturday in North Carolina, and when immediately after he announced it, he got all this pushback from the MAGA groups, and the MAGA groups are very upset at him because they're saying that he got bad advice, he doesn't know, and so forth. And so I think this is really a problem. He obviously miscalculated who he should have endorsed, and then the other guy that apparently is another guy who's running against him, who's like a millionaire businessman or something like that. He is. They're all using it, and especially a lot of people who have been jilted by Trump have come out and joined it and say, Trump is losing it. He's becoming obsolete and so forth. So I don't know. It's going to be. He's like endorsed 600 and something candidates, I think, right now, and it'd be interesting to see what of course, he'll put a spin on it that he's done all this great job, whatever. But I think this midterm election is going to prove that he is all bark, and it'll give the Republicans, I hope, more reasons to just kind of start breaking away from him. I don't know. Did you hear what that Governor Sununu said about him?
About Dr. Oz or Trump?
No, about Trump. He said he was asked about Trump, and he said Trump is an effing idiot. He said Trump is crazy. He said Trump is crazy. He said everyone in the party thinks he's crazy. He said he may not be crazy enough to be put in an insane asylum, but if he was in an insane asylum, he wouldn't be able to get out. That's what he said. And for and Trump, who always attacks people when they attack him, didn't say anything.
Right.
And there have been a lot of these reports saying that he just said exactly what all the Republicans are saying behind the scenes, that they actually laugh at Trump, that he's this big joke. They're just waiting for the day that they don't have to worry about him anymore. And his crowds are becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. And of course, he continues to lie, about things. And their biggest concern is that he keeps spreading this stupid 2020 election was stolen from him, and they want to get past that. And so it's one of these things. I hope he talks all summer long.
But one of the problems is that there's still a considerable amount of MAGAs even doing his rallies anymore that still believe the 2020 election is stolen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so herein lies, it's a good problem to have, because the MAGAs and whatever Republicans are left that aren't MAGAs, they're just ripping each other to shreds.
I mean, they are. They're killing each other.
I think you're going to see it in their prime.
You remember what you said in 2019? Jenny said
this before COVID.
She said the only people who can beat Republicans are other Republicans.
Yeah. Well, and especially
I paraphrase what you said.
Yeah. It was essentially his downfall was always going to be his own, because there's always that power struggle. And the party imploded post Reagan.
Yeah.
It started to implode after Nixon, but it definitely imploded after Reagan. And it still has never really come back. If people don't realize that the Republican president candidates have not won the majority of the vote in any election except one since 1992. And so the reality is that they are a second tier party trying to figure out equal footing with the Democratic Party that is now the majority party. So on that note, we are going to take another break, our last break of the show, and we'll finish up.
Hello, everybody. Hope you tune in to Two Queers in a Truck. It comes on right after Coffee and Pandosi. Appreciate you always watching and being there for us. I hope we can entertain you and be in your homes or wherever you listen to us. We're also on Spotify and many other places where you receive your podcast. So thanks for listening. Bye. Have a great week.
Bye, boo-boo.
And we are right back. And so if it walks like a bigot and talks like a bigot, it probably is a bigot. And so what I'm referring to is Lauren Boebert. She went on Faux News the other day to complain and whine that she's being called a bigoted conspiracy theorist. And of course, I mean, among other things, it's the least thing she worries is people that are digging the dirt on her husband and, exposing himself and everything else. Like, he's a sex criminal and there's just a whole bunch of questions about how inappropriate their relationship started because she was a minor, I believe. I think she was 16 or 17 when they met. Yeah. And just a whole lot of issues with this couple. And just and how loud they are, and the more people look at them, especially officials in Colorado, I think she's going to be in a lot of trouble pretty soon. And it's interesting, but of course, she went on the Fox News projecting, and people shouldn't call my husband that, and I'm not a conspiracy wacko. Well, girl, you get on TV all the time talking about the different people of color in the Democratic Party as being the jihadist, faction. And I can't imagine where the accusations of bigotry come from when you're sitting there making racial slurs on the House floor. Like, I don't know.
I think, like Tony thinks, and I hope that there is this silent majority in the Republican Party. And I know we call them cowards because they haven't spoken up.
Yep.
But I do believe there is a silent majority that are so sick of these clowns in the Republican Party. They're embarrassed. They're not going to call them out, but they're embarrassed about Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz. They're just the trash. They are the trash. And for whatever it is, this is the one time that I hope the elites in the Republican Party really stick it to them because I just can't, and I've said this, I saw, the guy who ran against Robert Pittenger was on Flashpoint on WCNC show, his political show on Saturday. Robert Pittenger was on there. And when I saw that he was going to be on there, I said, I would never have thought Robert Pittenger was a person that I would look at and go, God, I miss those kind of Republicans. That was more, refined, has the big mansion and, uses the word feckless and all this kind of stuff, married into all this kind of big money and all this kind of stuff. Those kind of Republicans are going, what trash, like Robert Pittenger hates Dan Bishop. Dan Bishop was threatening to sue Robert Pittenger when he was running for office because of some of the things that he said. So, they're just in the inside, they're going, we just can't wait to stick it to Dan Bishop and all those groups of people.
Well, there's probably some truth to it, but I would have seen to believe it. I do think it's a possibility. Yeah. I do think it's going to be a combination of some Democrats winning some races they typically be able to win, like the Texas governorship, things like that. I think it's going to take a partial demoralizing victory by the Democratic Party that's going to contribute to this. And I think part of it is going to be on very problematic candidates and office holders Republicans just not showing up in November, you know,
Yeah.
and especially when you're talking about
I'm
congressional races and key governorship races like Florida,
Mhm.
Texas, Georgia, to name the big three, that their challengers won. The DeSantis in Florida barely won the last time by 40-something thousand votes.
But he's got a big.
He killed more Republicans than that.
Well, hey, Jen. Do we know? I know we were having a politics show, but do we know who's the Democratic nominee might be? Who may be running against him?
In Florida,
has that been determined?
You know, it's nothing.
Because I haven't heard of like some big name or something. But I don't guess we need a big name. Yeah,
I think somebody that's a legitimate breath of fresh air is probably going to do real well against DeSantis.
So would I.
Only because that's such a swing state. It's not always. They've had a lot of Democratic governors in the last few years and decades.
Okay.
So they've not been a solid red state like Texas has been, has had a Republican governor since 1994. And then Georgia's had Republican governors for quite a while too. So I think you need a larger than life candidate like a Beto or a Stacey that both are been on the national scenes for all the work they've been doing for quite a while, and are powerful voices of democracy in general in their states, and are advocates and activists in their state, and great recruiting people. So Stacey, that's her number one skill is organizing and rolling it out. You've seen it firsthand. And we all know about Beto and Beto's story. He's a phenomenal organizer too, and gave Lady Ted Cruz all he could handle in one of the closest Senate race in Texas in 30 years.
Wow.
And Beto's gained more Democratic voters since then. The next topic is kind of a dovetail off the last one, GQP deflection of the week. And so basically, of course, RNC has this habit, and they've been doing this since Trump and the whole QAnon wing of the Republican Party is taking over, is that everybody they don't like is a pedophile or they're pro-pedophile. Like
our groomers, pedophiles,
and all that. And of course, obviously, when they make any accusation, any GOP accusation is a confession. And so just this week, a senior staffer with the chairperson of the RNC herself, her main, in fact, most of the photographs of Rona, that is the chairperson of the RNC, is created and developed by this person named Ruben Virastiglia. And Ruben just got sentenced to 12 years in prison for child porn. And he made a statement that his favorite kind of child porn is watching babies being raped. This is absolutely favorite.
God.
Yes. And so just got sentenced this week. And it's interesting that the party of anti-pedophilia keeps getting people sentenced in their party to pedophilia or child porn.
Why aren't Democrats publicizing this?
Well, it was blowing up on Twitter today. Or 2 days ago. Since it's being released on Wednesday. So it just hit the news cycle on Monday afternoon, and it is blowing up. And there is, in fact, people are retweeting pictures of Rona, the chairperson of the RNC. And then, how a photographer will always have the credit for it, and it has his name on it. And I mean, they're just making that. And it's actually some of her favorite pictures of herself. Promotional pictures were taken by this guy, but he was we're talking about in the same office with their RNC chairperson. Like literally, it's her right hand man, one of her her core parts of her team. And it's just ironic how once again, Matt Gaetz, Dennis Hastert, Jim Johnson, Jim Jordan, on and on and on and on. The guy in Oklahoma that was a state senator that was having sex 17-year-old male sex worker.
Yeah.
And they were smoking the hippie lettuce too, the devil's lettuce, and having man-on-man sex in a hotel. And so, it just the hits keep on coming. But yeah, you're right. I mean, this should be on every billboard in America. A picture of him, those quotes, and the Republican National Committee's. I mean, their top person, their chairperson.
And I wish we had someone in our as a Democrat. I wish we had someone, even though we don't ever want to be as crazy as Trump. I do wish we had someone that would make a statement saying, Russia, if you're listening, release all of the porn sites from all of the Republican candidates and their family. Anonymous, if you're listening, hack into all of the cell phones of the Republican Party and candidates and release all the pornography, the Grindr apps they have, the Tinder apps they have, release them. But specifically go after the ones who are evangelical Christians like Marjorie Taylor Greene and her husband. We want to really see what they're really doing when they're acting like they're, because it's amazing when you hear Marjorie Taylor.
Quick question. I've never really looked into her enough. Does Marge Three Names have a husband?
Yes.
I know Lauren Boebert does.
Remember they swapped. She has a husband. She has a husband, and remember the big controversy in the beginning was they were swapping partners with other people.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yes.
I forgot. I mean, is somebody that stays in the news so much. I forgot about their whole spouse swapping thing.
And it's so funny to hear. And even though because I grew up with a bunch of Baptists, it doesn't seem so funny because it's so typical. But to hear Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, as a Christian woman, and especially Laura Bobbitt, who's trying to act like Michelle Bachmann now, as a Christian woman, they tried to cancel culture Jesus, and you can't cancel the woke crowd at the time. Basically, that was a very anti-Semitic thing she was saying. She was trying to say Jews at the time. But there are people listen to that and go, I like that Christian woman.
Just as much screaming they do about pedophiles and how, Biden's a pedophile and, Judge Jackson's was easy on pedophiles and just all the screams, no proof whatsoever. I mean, our biggest sex scandal in the last 10 years was Cuomo and not governor anymore because
and Cal.
Well,
Cal.
I mean, he never held office.
That was more campaigning.
But I mean, let's be real. Even without that scandal, he wasn't beating Pelos.
Yeah, that's true.
He just, if anything, I'm just wondering if he leaked it himself so he'd have an excuse for losing. I mean, because what a dinkus.
But Jenny, do you remember?
That dude's a few pails short of a horse trough, like he just. Woo.
Jenny, do you remember do you remember right before all that happened and you and I were talking about things and I showed you the picture of his family and I remember saying something looks weird. His wife, remember, I don't know if you remember that, but I showed you his wife was like this. And it was just, she was so, and I kept thinking, this family is not like,
there's something
you like you see Jeff Jackson's family, and they look like they were all really like each other. You know what I mean? I mean,
they look like a family. They look like
exactly
because they
when you looked at her. Yeah, they are. And when you look at Cal, when I saw that picture from Cal, his wife was so like, and it was like, did someone not tell her, ma'am, let's take another picture?
Why?
It was so weird. And I jokingly said, I bet he cheats on her.
Yeah. Oh, no, I remember all that because you remember we talked about when that story broke a week or two later.
Yeah.
We were like, oh my gosh, you called it.
Yep. Yes.
And it just, and the way it broke, because it was primarily sexting. It was primarily the sex texting for people who don't know what sexting is.
Yeah.
Is, you send like, what are you wearing, whatever. And in fact, most of it was honestly, I saw some of the transcripts. It wasn't. I mean, just pop on Grinder for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, this is pretty wild. But anyway, I mean,
it was safe sex.
It was as boring as one of Cal's speeches, you know. I mean, Cal Cunningham is about as exciting today as watching, you know, old tapes of Spiro Agnew. You know, it's
That's
like,
right.
I mean, just, like, or Mondale. Oh my gosh! I mean, you know, we didn't have a chance in '84.
That's right.
You know, Mondale was like, I mean, the sacrificial lamb to Reagan. But anyway, you know, it's so bizarre, you know, and I hope the Democrats go after this hard, because you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know that if it was the vice versa, if the DNC's senior staff, and we're not talking about some intern or some dude who just got hired from a temp agency last week. We're talking about somebody that's been on this staff for quite a while.
Yep.
Is right there at the top of the power vortex of the RNC, and literally going to 12 years in prison. Like, he got
and you and I have been very consistent since you and I first met. If you're in a campaign like Alma Adams, run as a Democrat. Run Alma Adams. If you're in an election that is favoring Republicans, you got to run like a Republican. You got to use the same tools against them. I mean, I'm my biggest concern about, even
I think you use similar tools. I don't think you use same tools, because literally the same tools would be you up there being a hypocrite.
Yeah.
I don't. But I do want to correct you from the fact that we don't have to make any shit up about the Republicans.
Exactly. No, exactly. That's exactly right.
All we got to do
just say,
read their rap sheets. And the convictions. Like, literally, all we got to do is read off the list of people that are going to prison for the
insurrection.
We just have to read, you know, the confession of Matt Gaetz' best friend that arranged the whole magical carpet ride for the 17-year-old minor that had sex with Matt Gaetz. Well, all we have to do is read about Rubin's conviction and his position with the RNC's chairperson, literally the top official of their party, has a pedophile, a known pedophile. Like, they knew it in the office and still kept him employed. So the biggest thing is that this was known in the office, that he loved children, not loved them, but loved them.
So
it's like very bizarre. It's very. Again, anytime you have somebody, the guilty always scream the loudest. We say this all the time on the show.
They're projecting.
And you just wonder how many more people like that are in the Republican Party.
Oh, they're like 50%.
Yeah. I mean, you know, especially the QAnon wing with Marjorie names, and almost everybody in their party has a sex scandal.
And I've said, because this is called Two Queers in a Truck, I have said this when I lived in DC, the 2 times I lived in DC, everyone knew when you went to a gay bar that the majority of the people in the gay bars were staffers of Republicans. They were just on the down low.
Yeah.
And we always knew whenever there was a Republican event, whether it was, you know, CPAC or anything like that, the gay bars would be really crowded with Republicans, whether they were married men who just wanted to go to the Eagle, to the leather bars. It was like this unwritten rule. So quite honestly, when Madison Cawthorn said something about cocaine sniffing and orgies, I'm not sure that he was wrong. I just think that I think he was a liar. I don't think he actually had seen any of them. He probably heard about them. But
from a friend, right?
Yeah, from a friend.
I was just holding it for a friend.
But I know this is not going to come out right, but if you're going to invite someone to a cocaine-induced orgy, why would you invite Madison Cawthorn?
Just to hold the camera steady. And on that note, we are just going to roll on through that joke right there. Yeah, Miss Maddie probably got hired as the camera person because they're going to be needing to find a new career anyway.
You think that's why he was mad?
He's just mad because, I don't know. Miss
Yeah.
Maddie just didn't get it.
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess maybe they had an A party and a B party.
And he was
And
part of the
all
B
cocaine,
party.
and they
Yeah.
shut him out of the second party where the orgy
Yeah.
actually happened. It was like, sorry, man, we don't film this part of it. You're just going to have to hit the bricks. But on that note, we will close out the show talking about Miss Maddie and the cocaine and orgy problems in their life.
Yes.
And again, every Republican accusation is always
projected. That's right.
I mean, it's literally a projection.
All right. Bye. See you next week, Boo.
See you next week.
Bye.
Stay away from the cocaine parties.
Anyway.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for watching Two Queers in the Truck. Our viewers is what makes us who we are. Still not all the way. But anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye, y'all. Bye, Boo.
Bye, Boo. I don't know where I learned that hand dance from.
I don't know either.